Welcome to the first build video of Hodges Fine Woodworking. Today we're going to solve one of the problems in my basement wood shop that, if you've been watching our short series, I'm currently renovating. And that problem is storage and shop furniture. I have zero shop furniture whatsoever. And so most of my tools fit in either bags, they hang on the walls, or the studs of the walls, or they sit just on the floor. For instance, my DeWalt 735X planer sits on the concrete floor. And this wouldn't normally be a problem, and I know I'm not super old, but it still is a hassle to get down on the concrete floor on my knees and plane wood constantly. So today we're going to build a DeWalt 735X planer cart. I know that there are hundreds of these out there, and I hope that you just enjoyed the build video. We're not going to sell plans. I'll tell you all the measurements. Just enjoy the content and watch me build some furniture for my shop.
Alright, so first things first here. I had to cut out my pieces from the sides for my legs. I'm making basically just a half lap joint by attaching one short piece to one long piece. So these pieces I'm cutting here are 34 inches in length. And then what I need is a 3.5 inch gap on that board. So after I cut these long ones, I cut short ones that are 7 inches shorter. So I can have a 3.5 inch gap on each side for the half lap. So what you see here is me putting together the half lap joints, and I'm just using screws here. I did 4 screws per. You could do this with glue and clamps if you had the time. I didn't want to wait overnight for all those things to dry. Would it make the joint way stronger? Absolutely it would. But yeah, you just had that gap there, and then you did 4 of them. And each of these becomes a side rail that supports the majority of the weight for the square frame, which you'll see now. Is you have those half laps, and then you just have a piece that is the width of your board, your top rather, and then you just screw that into place in the handle. Again, you can do all this with clamps and glue if you'd like, but I decided to not do that just in case I want to take it apart and redo it, which most likely at some point I will do. Alright, what you see me doing here is measuring this top to make sure I have the side rails at the appropriate length. And so I'm just kind of putting it on here. I'm going to measure the whole length of my top. Then I'm going to subtract the thickness of those two square pieces, which is about the thickness of two 2x4s. So it's about 3 inches. So 3 inches from each side. My top is 26 by 24. So I need something that is exactly 23 inches to go across. And so I'm just going to mark it here. I'm going to make some cuts, and then I'm going to drill some pocket holes.
All right, so I have our cart here. It's sturdy. Hopefully it'll last us a long time, but I want to put some drawers in it for storage. Now I want my drawers to be wide, not skinny. Even though you could put them in the other way, I want the bigger drawer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this inside here, and that gets me exactly right about 19 and a half. And the good rule of thumb when you're making drawers is that you want there to be 1/8 of an inch on either side. So 1/4 of an inch from your total measurement. So it's 19 and a half. I'm subtracting 1/4 of an inch. 19 and 1/4 is the widest I want my drawer to be. The absolute widest. That's the outside parts of the drawer, not the inside measurement. Outside measurement of the drawer, 19 and 1/4. Then for the inside, the good rule of thumb, you want to measure your gap here. And mine is sitting at just a hair over 24 3/4. So I'm going to say 24 3/4. And so what that means is however many drawers I want, I'll divide that number by, let's say 4, if I want 4 drawers. And that's how deep I can make my drawers. That's how much space I need in between here. So 24 3/4 divided by 4. If I want 4 drawers, that means I can make my drawer up to that deep. Now, a good rule of thumb that I've also seen that most people, most YouTubers will tell you is that you don't really want drawers bigger than 5 or 6 inches deep, because then the temptation is to put all your heavy, big, bulky tools in. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to build some drawers. So that, without further ado, let's get some plywood cut and we'll get working. All right, so another thing when you're cutting plywood, especially if you spend a lot of money on plywood, this is hardwood 1/2-inch plywood. Something that you'll notice, you may not be able to see it in this angle, but there's little burrs all along this edge where the saw blade was coming up through and got this top layer all jagged. So a circular saw blade does the same spinning motion this way. So I want to cut on the same exact side that you see all these burrs. If I were to flip this over, then you have 2 sides with burrs, and then you can't use it on either side if you want it to be visible. So always, if you're cutting and you have this jagged edge, this tear out, make sure that this tear out, if you're using a circular saw, is up so that you can use the bottom side if you want to have it viewing to everything else.
Alright, so what you see here is me building the drawers, and from everything that I've seen, you can build drawers several different ways. There's lots of fancy ways to do them, lots of non-fancy ways to do them. But the easiest method, and the one that for shop furniture I find the best, is brad nails and glue. And the main thing to note is just to make sure that you have plenty of glue on there to strengthen the joint, and that the brad nails go through a good ways, and to hold the gun perpendicular to your spline. So you'll notice here in just a moment when I shoot in this nail that my nail gun is perpendicular or horizontally faced. So because nails from the right there, yep, you see how it's not straight up and down, because nails from the brad nail gun deflect from side to side. That way, if I were to hold it straight up and down, it may come out the front, it may come out the back of that front panel. But we want it to go into the front panel. We don't care about deflection up and down, but we do care about deflection side to side if you're holding it straight up and down vertically. So yeah, this method seems to do well. Most people will say that you need pocket holes or a miter joint or dovetails or a box joint, all of which are totally fine. But for me, for shop furniture, I think this will hold just plenty well. Lincoln Street Woodworks has a great video out about drawers, and if you want to go watch that, just go watch that. It's a wonderful video, all about the strength of drawers and some common myths there.
I messed up. So essentially what happened is I built two drawers. They look good. They look great. They're built to last, at least in the shop, for a little while. My problem is I had envisioned these beautiful wooden drawer slides that I would make from my leftover plywood. So my thought was, my idea anyways, I've kind of seen it something similar, is you have two rails in the drawer, in the cart, and then you have a third one attached to the drawer, and it slides across these in the middle. That way the drawer doesn't tip when they try to come out instead of sliding on top. So I tried that, and then I realized as I tried to install the drawers that I didn't account for the width of the plywood rails on either side. So my drawer is now too wide. And so I made two drawers that way. I don't have the extra plywood to go back and redo them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the slides to underneath the rails because I don't really have another option. And then the last two drawers I'm going to put in, I can make the right way, the way I want it to. So back to the drawing board we go, and got to fix some problems.
So what you're going to see me do is not revisit those drawers whatsoever. I got one in just resting on those rails, and it's super wobbly. It doesn't really work very well. So I'm going to revisit the drawers at a later date because it took me so long just to get this thing built because I worked those two full-time jobs. And so because of that, I just said, you know what, let's just get this thing on here. I'll do a little sanding. I'm going to paint this later. I bought a matching can of paint for this in my workbench we're going to build. What you see me here is putting the planer on. It's not quite centered yet,
but we're going to take the pieces out and replace it with some new blades. So if you've never seen this done on the DeWalt 35, you take the top cover off with an Allen wrench. It includes a tool that has a magnet on it. I didn't get that. I bought mine off Facebook Marketplace for about 35% of the normal cost of one of these, and it didn't come with that tool. So what you're going to see here is I'm just going to use a regular Allen wrench to get in here and get these bolts out so I can release the blades. And you have to be super careful when you do this because these blades, even though mine are chipped, are very, very sharp. There's a lot of wood gunk and different things put in there. So just keep that in mind as you go through and go to change these blades. I just have straight blades. I don't have the kind of budget for a helical cutter head. And I've also seen that a lot of people will say the helical underpowers this DeWalt planer. Let me know if you think that's true in the comment section. I've seen a video or two on it claiming that while it has a smoother cut, it tends to trip it a lot and cause it to shut down because of a safety feature because it's getting too bogged down. So I haven't gone and splurged and got the helical head just yet. But as you're watching this, just sit back, relax, and enjoy some sped up footage of me just loosening and tightening bolts, really.
Alright, so if you stuck around this long in the video, you're either really interested in this or you're probably my mom. So that's awesome. Thank you for sticking around this long. You've seen me build a cart, and you've also seen me fail at building some drawers. Obviously, I need a little bit more practice with that. I didn't think that I needed a lot more practice after watching a lot of YouTube videos, but apparently that's not good enough. You got to actually go and do it yourself. So trial and error. You'll see me continue to work on this throughout videos. To make it perfect and exactly what I want out of it. But if you stayed around this long, just know that this project was not time consuming, but for me, I worked 2 full-time jobs, so it took me probably 3 weeks to get it all together and do, plus filming, obviously. But if you would consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video with your friends, your family, that would help me be able to quit my second job and do this more full-time. So if you enjoy videos like this, you want to see more of them, like, subscribe, follow along to see what we build next.